X-Men. Get it!
Hey everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Battle of the Atom. This is your weekly X-Men podcast where we rank every story from A to Z.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Zach. And Adam!
Hey! What's up?
Okay, so I'm going to be very honest.
Yeah, please. Full honesty.
Right before we did this, we were planning our Halloween episode, which will be next week. Spoilers. And I thought, in my head, I was like, oh, so I have to do a spooky thing as the bit of our intro. And then I realized that going Adam doesn't make sense because we're not talking about anything involving Halloween on this one, are we?
Nope. Nothing spooky going on here. Some alternate realities, maybe, but and some truly terrible comics, but not until later in this episode. But what are we talking about this week, Zach? This is a very interesting theme.
Yeah, so the theme for this episode, which, I want to be clear, comes to us, like all of our themes, except for the ones that we pick because we feel like it, which is rare, but it does happen.
Occasionally,
seasonally, often, or when the mood strikes us right. But, like normally, our theme this week comes from Patreon supporter Marcelo Biup. Marcelo said, folks, here's a couple of dollars. He reached deep down into his heart and his pocketbook and threw a couple of coins in our coffers that keep Comics XF running and as the premier comic book site for people who like this podcast? ? And what Marcelo suggested was, hey, can you do an episode about Mutant X? So we did, but I cannot say that the first story that we're talking about is technically Mutant X.
No, because we decided to go chronologically, and you can't talk about Mutant X Volume 1 without talking about the issues of X Factor that lead into Mutant X, because I think it would be a little bit confusing. You could pick up Mutant X number 1, and we'll talk about that in a couple minutes, but we are going to start with X Factor 145 to 149. And we got Howard Mackie writing these for the most part.
Yeah, Howard Mackie does everything except for 147, which is a weird fill-in by Joseph Harris.
Mm-hmm.
But on art duties, we've got Duncan Rawlu and Trevor Scott. We've got Lee Moder. We've got Mike Miller, who sucks, by the way. Lee Moder again, and then James Fry finishes out the series. Adam, I'm just gonna ask because I know you know now, but before this series, do you know about the XUE?
I feel like such a dummy that I did not know about this version of the XSE.
Well,
these are the Xavier Underground Enforcers, and I now found some very new, interesting characters.
Yeah. So, and you just read these 5 issues. You did not read the about 5 issues before. Excuse me, the 5 issues before this that introduce them and give you their whole vibe. Because we're talking about Fix, we're talking about Archer, and buddy, you know we're talking about Greystone.
Yes.
You know how the XSE are cops? Like Bishop's future, he's a future cop.
Right. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And while Bishop is definitely full cop, the cops in that future are more soldiers fighting a war than they are police as we would think of them in these day and age. That's beyond the point because the XUE thought that the XSE was too soft. Right. So with Shard, they formed a splinter group of the Xavier Security Enforcers, the cops that Bishop is.
Yeah. And somehow they have traveled back in time. Now, Shard is her own thing because she
Yes.
was just a hologram and suddenly, like, over time became reconstituted as sort of like a semi-transparent being. Right?
She's a hard light hologram, Adam. You remember the classic Bishop miniseries?
I do. I do.
Yeah,
but she's a full-fledged member of X Factor at this point in continuity.
And she had been for probably 30 issues at this point. Like Shard, who I actually really like Shard. I think Shard's great. Shard is Bishop's sister. She's also a cop. She could have gotten farther in the XSE as a leader, but she really wanted to be on the streets with her brothers and sisters in arms. And then she got murdered by M-plates.
Jeez Louise. Not cool. Not cool.
And her hologram got sent back in time, and eventually it was sentient enough that it was just its own person.
Yeah.
That's not what happened with the XUE.
No, and this is interesting too, because each one of these characters you just introduced, Fix, Archer, and Greystone, have been brought back through time and into someone else's body.
Yep.
So not only are they in someone else's body, but they're kind of like each Transformers, because they can go back and forth between what that character looks like and
the regular looks.
And their original look. So with a character like Greystone, you have him, he is when he's at full power mode, he is this giant. When he's not powered, he is an African-American man. And when
he's actually I believe he's Samoan.
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
Well, listen, unless you know a lot about Delvin Greystone, you would not know anything about Delvin Greystone, because the coloring in this is a challenge. I'm sorry, he's not. He's a native New Zealander.
Oh,
I apologize.
Okay. And then to complicate that, he is stuck in the body of a very small white boy. So
he doesn't love that.
No, and Archer, who is kind of like, I don't know, he looks like a robot almost. He's got his
Archer
tattooed to his glass helmet face.
Yeah, Archer's so freaking cool. He's just got like a circle head that's white. Like he looks like Zero if Zero was wearing a XSE uniform.
Yeah.
He's in the body of a serial killer and a cult leader.
Who I guess was abusive to his wife and daughter and wants to make amends for it, but in his own old body, which
okay
choices
we're going to jump around these stories, but let's talk about that one at one point. Archer in the body of a cult leader and serial killer, like he has some of the memories and he starts to feel really bad for what this guy did.
Yeah.
So he goes and finds the wife and child of this cult leader. By the way, all these people have died. Like that's how they got these bodies. They were fresh corpses and they reanimated them using future science. It's fine. He goes to the wife and says, "Yeah, so I'm sorry, I was a bad husband." And then she doesn't believe him, and then some X-Men stuff happens. I believe with Nick Fury and his mandroids, and they say, "Actually, no. Okay, I'm a guy from the future that's inhabiting your dead husband's body, but he was kind of a piece of garbage, and I don't know. I'm stuck in the past now. You want to be a family?" And she says yes.
That's crazy. It doesn't.
And what's
make a dang
implied
bit of
by
sense.
this is that Archer and that family are living happily ever after. Like,
good for them.
It all worked out. It's just very weird, Howard Mackie.
Very, very strange. Fix is a dark-haired woman with psychic butterflies that sort of...
They are sprites. They are specifically sprites. They're like little fairies that she sends around.
And kind of, can spy on things. It's pretty cool.
Fix is actually... I had forgotten about this. Fix and her sprites are how they were able to telepathically transmit their essences into those bodies.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. And then
No, it doesn't make sense. It is an excuse that the book thought
it's
of.
a comic book. It's not. I mean, I'm not asking for a scientific explanation for this. Of course, it makes no sense. And then you have Greystone, who is at times quite insane. He's maniacally obsessed with killing the child version of a future villain, and has to be stopped by his teammates. And
Yeah.
then later thinks he's building a time machine and ends up killing himself in Havoc.
Yeah, that's because Greystone has temporal insanity.
Yes.
He goes time crazy, which I get because I've tried to explain X-Men timelines, and I understand what he's doing. I do think so. The first issue is about that story where there is a human who will become an abusive jailer and submit all of the XUE to a bunch of torture in the before the Summers Rebellion in Bishop's future. You know about that one.
Yeah.
But he's a baby now. Like, he's a baby child. And Greystone is like, okay, well, I guess we have to kill him. I don't know what to tell you. I would like not to have been tortured. So if we stop him, then I won't be tortured. I understand his logic. It's kill baby Hitler logic. Perfect sci-fi sense. Anyway, he does see the child and is like, oh, because Greystone's kind of a kid. That's the thing. Like,
right.
Greystone, even he's not as young as the body that he's inhabiting, but he's still he's like a teen.
Yeah.
And he's as mature as one.
Right. No, he's very immature. Now, parallel to this story, we should also mention that Shard really does not care for these future people. They keep wanting to befriend her and, be part of the team. And she's like, yeah, just please get away from me. Like, I don't recall.
I believe it was their actions that got her M-plated on accident.
Right.
So she doesn't care about that.
She's not super happy about that. Interwoven with that is a story about Havoc trying to make nice with Jamie Madrox and Polaris, and maybe to put the whole gang
because
back
X Factor
together.
had fallen apart, by the way.
Right. So
Forge had left, and Forge in this set of issues officially says, Havoc, do not talk to me. You pretended to be a terrorist for a while. I would like not to hang out with you anymore.
Yeah.
You had Mystique and Sabretooth are out doing their own things because they're done being villains. I can't tell you what happened to Wild Child. I don't remember. It's been a while since I've read these. He kind of scampers off. So it's down to... And Havoc was already not on the team anymore because Havoc was like, I'm going to pretend to be a terrorist.
Very strange. Very strange. So
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, he's trying to make amends. It does seem like he may have succeeded. And then, of course, this arc ends with Greystone killing him, blowing him up.
Yeah, he has this... Havoc gives this whole big speech about what X Factor is going to be. He's going to say, hey, XUE, you know what? I don't like you, but you're here, and we're going to do something here. We're going to make the world a better place. He then immediately gets blown up.
Yeah.
Were you reading the letters columns on the back of these issues? Because
I wasn't. Should I have been?
No, but listen, I don't love the writing of Howard Mackie. I do love the fact that they are committing very hard to the fact that, hey, starting at X Factor 150, we got Tom Rainey joining. We are going to do something wild and take this book into a crazy new direction. You guys have no idea. Get excited. Mm-hmm. This is a big new thing. And the book is canceled at 149 because the big new thing is actually a whole other book. And I kind of love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Kudos to them. I have to say, and we'll devote a couple seconds to the fill-in issue that's in here, which is very strange. But the whole era here does feel remarkably fresh. It doesn't feel like your average X Factor. It does feel different. I like these weird characters. They they're weird, and like they're problematic enough in the way in which they're constructed and the bodies that they're trapped in that it makes the stories interesting. So I think it's kind of neat.
I do think it's neat. X Factor had a problem, especially the Howard Mackie stuff. It was searching for an identity for a very long time, and it couldn't figure it out. They tried to do the underground thing with a bunch of villainy characters, and it just wasn't going in the right direction. It tried to do some of the Havoc being in the Brotherhood stuff. They were not finding a hook. And the Howard Mackie arcs were just bad until issue 140, when he introduces the XUE, and he starts like closing out other characters' arcs and building new arcs for these characters. And it's not 100% successful, but those last 10 issues, like, there's a spark there that was not on this book since Peter David was writing it back in the early 90s.
Yeah, I agree.
It's worth checking out. It's an underrated, like, era. Good? I don't know. I don't know if it's good.
Well, we'll get there in a second. But we are saddled with this weird fill-in issue that thinks that Shard is in high school age. Also, the coloring across these issues is all over the map and doesn't seem to represent the skin tones of these colors of these characters.
It's 1997, 1998 coloring, buddy.
Yeah, and that fill-in issue really, it's towing the line. You know, it's basically like Shard is a white girl with a tan. So it's not great. That one's about her sort of trying to protect a high school kid who thinks he's a mutant.
He's really just double jointed.
Just got a double jointed thumb, you know, not actually a mutant. And it ends with Shard almost being stoned with little pieces of gravel. If she wasn't a hard light hologram, she probably would have been pretty hurt. And it's not, it doesn't fit in with the rest of the storytelling here. So that one's an outlier. The rest of it I thought was pretty interesting, and kudos to trying to do something new and different.
No, I agree. I would rather, I'm at the point, there's bad comics out there, but I would rather read a bad comic that's interesting and trying new things than a bad comic that's just boring. Like, it may be technically better. Mm-hmm. And I can, like, from my very critical lens, I can say, well, this is better on, like, this merit, this merit, this merit. But I had more fun reading this one that's bad, but I enjoyed how the ways in which it was bad in the places it was trying to go.
No, I agree.
And that's the difference of Howard Mackie X Factor from 139 and before to 140 and to the end of that run. Mm-hmm. Which that explosion that kills Havoc and Greystone, we'll get to it. Also, they've never done it, and they never will. But given the existence of what happens with Havoc and how little that's explained, Greystone could come back at any time, and I would love to see Greystone come back.
Yeah,
like, he's cool. He's a guy, and he has, like, inflatable dude powers. He just turns into a big Hulk monster when he's angry.
Yeah, he's pretty great. I liked all those characters. So why don't we rank this on our big old list, Zach?
Yeah, here's the thing about our podcast is that we've got a big old list. In fact, we have 561 stories that we have been meticulously ranking from best to worst X-Men story of all time. The best story, of course, is House of X Powers of 10. If you want to argue with me, don't. The number 100th story is X-Force Assault on Grey Malkin. That's X-Force 19 through 24. Number 200 is that Bishop miniseries. Funny enough. Number 300 is Savage Avengers 1 through 5, The City of Sickles. Number 400 on our list is X-Force and Cable Annual number 5. That's when they do a beach day with the Impossible Man. Number 500 on our list is X-Factor Volume 1, 1 through 6. The bad part of X-Factor. Like, there's a lot of bad parts. That one's pretty bad, and then Wheezy's doing her darndest to keep it together by the end of it. And the bottom story on our list is the Draco. I'm curious where this one will fall.
I am too.
I think if we're gonna be very technical about it, Savage Avengers is a better comic.
And that's at what?
300.
Oh yeah. I was looking,
and right below that is Sabretooth in Charge, which this comic does not give anybody a tiger. That's a detriment.
No, I was actually looking closer to the low 300s, around the 400 mark, just given the kind of storytelling that we have around there. I think that I would give more credit to something like 381, which is Deadly Genesis, just in terms of,
yeah, but you like Deadly Genesis more than me.
That's the thing. Listen, it's not great, but I still think it probably is better than these couple issues. But I think we're in the same. Like, this is probably on par with 387, which is Rogue and Iceman's Road Trip and the introduction of Gene Nation. Right?
Yeah, because their Road Trip is good and the Gene Nation stuff's boring and bad. And their Road Trip actually really just has like one good part.
Yeah.
And the rest of it's off the rails.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's fair to say. This is an interesting theoretical question for you, Adam.
Okay.
Is it better than that time where we found out what Charles Xavier's greatest weakness was in Ultimate X-Men?
Stairs. Let's see.
That's a bad joke. The more I hear it, like, I feel like everyone knows just how horrible of a joke it is, but the shocking nature that it just gets thrown in there in this very serious story.
Yeah. Well, where do we have that on the list? That's at what?
That's at 385, just a couple spots above that. And then right above that, actually, between where you were saying Deadly Genesis, which, fine, whatever, we're in the right ballpark. Below that, we have the New Mutants Summer Special, the X-Men No More Humans OGN, and the Jim Lee Mojo arc that also has the Maverick backups with Mark Texeira.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
How do you feel about it compared to those? I think I enjoyed reading this more than I enjoyed reading the New Mutants Summer Special, but if there's anything that I want to go back and reread on this list that I haven't in the years that we've been doing this podcast, it's that story that we read on the first chunk of episodes, and I feel like my tastes have changed.
Yeah.
I feel like I have become more Anacenti friendly in that time, even if I am not as Anacenti friendly as you.
Yeah, that Summer Special is definitely better than this. But I probably would put this ahead of No More Humans at 383.
Man, No More Humans is weird.
It is. It is.
No More Humans is another one that is so weird. That, like, part of it's the fact that it is a prestige OGN, and the only OGN the X-Men have had since God Loves Man Kills.
Yeah, absolutely bonkers. It's really strange.
Fascinated by this. That does make this our new number 383. It's the end of X Factor.
Yeah. So obviously, we said this before. Havoc goes kablooey, and ends up in a brand new book.
Yeah, it turns out there's not an X Factor 150, and there has never been an X Factor 150, and likely never will be an X Factor 150. What we have instead is Mutant X #1. Fear him. Fear for him. It's got a big old wraparound cover that introduces us to this new team. It's still Howard Mackie, and Tom Rainey is writing it, or drawing it.
Mm-hmm.
Adam, you know about the 12, right?
I do. I mean, in as far as anyone can really understand a half-baked concept that then got turned into an even worse baked concept.
And you know about the 5?
The current 5? Yes.
Yes, the 5.
Yeah, sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, they're the Mutant Resurrection team. Well, this is the 6.
Yes, this is the 6.
Trapped in a world of darkness, Alex Summers is Mutant X. I want to be very clear. No, he's not. He's Havoc still. They
never call him
I do not
that.
know where the words Mutant X come from in this title. He is very explicitly Havoc.
Market research? I don't know. That's a great question.
Listen, who can comprehend the mind of Howard Mackie? It's not for the likes of us.
Yeah. So we have an interesting lineup here right off the bat on page 2. Havoc has sort of fallen into this new body and is in
It's
an
the body
alternate-
of Havoc.
It's another Havoc. But in this Havoc reality, he is married to Madeline Pryor.
You're talking about Marvel Woman, the Goblin Queen herself.
That's correct. And they're teamed up with an alternate universe version of Archangel known as the Fallen.
So the Fallen. Let's talk about that. You remember when Warren Worthington III became the Archangel?
Yes, I do.
The Archangel of Death for
Yes.
Apocalypse. Hallowed be his name. Well, what this universe posits is what if then immediately afterwards Warren Worthington III watched The Crow?
And got goth.
He just made that his whole personality.
Pretty much. He's got the some extra face makeup and he has his claws. He's an interesting dude.
He is just wearing Spider-Man 2099 shirt, right? Like
It's very-
that's his costume.
It's very similar, if not the same. We are also joined by a Storm who was transformed into a vampire by Dracula and never brought back, and that is Bloodstorm.
Yeah, that's Bloodstorm, who asks, what if Uncanny X-Men 160 Storm was not able to stop being under the thrall of Dracula? Bloodstorm doesn't get a lot to do in the issues. We're talking about issues 1 through 3 here, which kind of make up the first story of getting introduced to this world. Mm-hmm. Bloodstorm doesn't get a lot to do in these 3 issues. She gets more to do later. But I do think the general appeal of Bloodstorm is sexy vampire Storm, which makes sense.
She's a great
Like,
character.
I get it.
Right off the bat, very cool character. Because it's still Storm, but she's a sexy vampire. And we also
I understand the appeal.
I also like the version of Beast that we get here, the Brute. He's sort of like Hulk green. He's got scales.
Yeah, he looks like the Abomination. Is
Yeah.
what he looks like.
Yeah.
He's like if Beast was the Abomination. It's asking, okay, what if Hank never stopped experimenting on himself, especially during the X Factor stuff, where, okay, now that I'm saying this out loud, wow, they really are just, this is really just, hey, X Factor 150, because most of this is what if X Factor went a different way.
Sure. Could be.
Because this is pulling from the bad part of Wheezy's X Factor, where Beast was getting dumb.
A little
And
bit.
everyone hated that, to be fair. I get it that they went down that path and they're like, this could be interesting. And then they realized, no, it's not, actually. We need to pull... Hank McCoy being smart is the good part of his character.
And then there's Iceman, who has elf
Oh, you're
ears.
talking about...
What? Oh, right, because he like went to Asgard, right? And had a
So
guardian.
you remember in X Factor when Loki... Well, actually, this isn't just X Factor. You remember in Thor when Loki captured Bobby Drake?
Yeah.
And he had to wear a wrestling belt for a while to control his powers?
Yes.
This universe posits what if he didn't have his cool wrestling belt and instead he was a mature adult? Like, he just has to grow up and he's like, yeah, don't call me Bobby. Call me Bob, please. Like, my name's Bob.
Oh my goodness. Not Robert.
No, his name's Bob. It's Bob Drake.
So, right off the bat, the Alex of this world drowns, and they do a quick body swap with the soul, personality, psyche, whatever of the Alex from 616. He comes back up with Brute having saved him, and he's like, what is going on? I am married to Madeline Pryor? You're still alive? What is happening here? And
Yeah, there's a Sentinel attack that he wakes up right in the middle of.
right.
The Sentinels kind of look cool. They're like skeleton Sentinels. They're kind of rad.
Yeah, Rainey's art, I think, I enjoyed Rainey's art from this time period, and I think it's really great for these characters. He does a really good job of cementing who each one of them is, especially the way he draws Brute, I think is really cool.
I think it's cool. And he introduces us to the idea of this world's very different. So Nick Fury in this world freaking hates mutants.
Yep.
He just really does. So he's got Sentinels. Instead of a couple issues ago where the Mandroids were trying to get things taken care of, Nick Fury now has Sentinels, and he's attacking the Six with them. Trying to capture Madeline and Havoc's son, Scotty Summers, who is more or less Franklin Richards.
Yeah. And right off the bat, without missing a beat, is basically like, hey, you're not my dad. Who are you?
Yeah, Havoc for like 10 seconds tries to because he's playing along and not telling anybody that he's Havoc from another dimension. He's like, okay, son, let's do it. And then Scotty immediately like,
wait a minute.
I don't like this.
It's
very funny.
Another really funny touch that's in here is his babysitter.
Oh, it's Electra Stavros.
Why is Electra his babysitter? It's so weird. It's great.
She's just his babysitter. She's still Electra, which is the good part.
Oh yeah,
it's not
she's just straight up a ninja, but she's also his nanny, and I just don't understand why isn't she part of the team? She just hangs around and watches him, I guess.
Yeah, they all live in a castle.
Yes.
The Bannerman Castle, which I'm trying to remember what is that like the castle that they had upstate that Toad took over for a hot minute.
Someone's going to get on our case about this. We should look this up.
We should
because people expect us to know this stuff. So
I don't know
the Bannerman Castle is.
Oh no! It's just an actual real castle in New York.
Oh, okay. Well now, and it is. I'm looking on the Marvel Wiki. It's just in Mutant X, so this is not a 616 thing that we were supposed to know about. That's good
okay. Great. This is just a real castle that's in New York. Neat.
Yeah.
Oh, you can do a self-guided tour with live music for $40 there.
I like the sound of that.
Adam, you are in the tri-state area.
I
you
know.
could just go.
Now I'm plotting a day trip. This sounds good.
Sounds delightful.
Did we mention that there's a weird relationship history with members of the Fantastic Four here?
Oh yeah. In what I had forgotten about in a beautiful thing. So the Fantastic Four show up. They never actually went to space. They all have robot suits. That's
right.
Whatever.
And Reed is not quite the smartest person in the world. He just kind of thinks he is, and Sue kind of tells him he is. But he's not.
That's true. What's also weird and true is that Havoc plays the Namor role for the
Right.
Fantastic Four in this universe. And this Havoc is very confused because he's like, I did not seduce Sue Storm. Why? What? I would have done that. That's weird. Maddie is like, listen, Alex, we're past this.
Right.
Do not bring it up to Reed. Do not bring it up to Susan. We are trying to work together as community of heroes. They do that, and then they have another mission where during that time, Havoc expresses to Reed, so listen, Reed, I know you're really smart. I'm not from this universe. And Reed, acting like a rational person, is like, okay, Maddie, your husband has something going on, and he really needs your guys' love and support right now to work him through it.
Right.
And I understand that there's part of it that was like, why are we gaslighting Havoc? But also, they're being incredibly reasonable and kind about this situation.
Oh, sure. I mean, when he woke up in the first issue, he basically tried to kill them all. So,
I honestly kind of wish that in issue 1 you didn't see the actual soul swap that was happening.
Oh.
Because it would be so easy to not have that panel in there. Mm-hmm. And then you have the reader trying to guess, wait, what's happening? Because now we know that we know what the situation is from page 1, panel 1.
Right.
If we didn't, I think that could have been a more interesting story than
Sure.
what we got.
Could have been. The third issue has our folks ending up in Canada and running...
Which is somehow worse.
Right. And running into some very naked friends, Wolverine, Sabretooth, and Wild Child, who are trying to get into the Weapon X facility. I'm not
Yeah, they're
mistaken.
just kind of hanging out around the Weapon X facility. But the bigger problem is that apparently Mutant X has been banned from all of Canada.
Yes. Yes.
And in a beautiful scene, Guardian from Alpha Flight and the rest of Alpha Flight show up and say, "You have 1 hour to get off of Canadian soil before this becomes an international incident." And smash cut to the next page that shows them in their jet saying 59 minutes later. It's very good.
I also appreciate that it's just Alpha Flight. It's not an alternate universe for Alpha Flight. It's just Alpha Flight.
It's Guardian, Puck, Sasquatch, Aurora, North Star, Snowbird, and Shaman. Like, it's just, hey, we have a standard unit of Alpha Flight here. And fine, Canada's worse. But that's
And we end
it.
our 3 issues here with Alex saying, "Okay, I'm stuck here. I guess if I'm gonna be here, I need to give it a shot." And lets Maddie know that, like, "Hey, I'm sorry, I've been a little weird lately, but I'm here to stay." And then we go off with the series. And I gotta say, I mean, as an introduction to an alternate world and to some new characters, similar to my introduction to the XUE in the last arc that we just talked about, I think this is a lot of fun. Now, I have not read all of Mutant X, and I have heard that it starts very strong and does a nosedive very quickly after its first year.
It goes, even in the first year. Look, here's the thing that happens with Mutant X. It gets absolutely wild right after this.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
even 4 and 5, which I did read, are bonkers.
That's when Madeline tries to do Inferno 2.
Right. Involving Hobgoblin and Man Spider.
It's very good. She does take over the world and then gets okay. By the end of Mutant X, we learn about the Goblin Force, which is the equal opposite of the Phoenix Force, which kind of dumb, kind of rules. I can't decide which. And then we also have this giant, wild... I can't even explain it fully, but every possible thread comes together in this insane thing involving the Beyonder and Dracula and the X-Men that Magneto leads that are kind of evil. And also then she's out of the book for a while, but the Goblin Force does come back and it's like, oh, dang it. It was Maddie all along.
Wow.
Mutant X isn't traditionally good, even if like these 3 issues have some enjoyable parts, a lot of great concepts. The execution this is probably about as good as it gets.
Well, for a starting arc, I enjoyed this quite a bit. In terms of alternate universe X stories, I thought this had more promise than, let's say, the beginning of Exiles.
Sure.
So why
Where
don't
do we have the beginning of Exiles?
And now just saying that, I'm thinking like maybe that's too high on the list, but let me see.
That's at 227 right now. That's above Fatal Attractions and below Dead Man Logan. And Dead Man Logan's better than this by a good amount.
Yeah, definitely. Gosh, we probably just have Exiles too high.
Probably. We probably do.
Probably. But
is this better than... Okay, let's ask the easiest question first. Did you like this better than the previous Howard Mackie stuff that we just talked about?
Yes, I did. Did you?
I think it's probably a more coherent group of things with more good ideas, but I don't know how high it should go. Like, is this better than, say, ROM Space Knight 17 through 18 Hybrid? That's at 346.
I mean, and right above that is Extinction Agenda, which I definitely don't think this is better than. I think we're probably... It's definitely not better than Bishop's Crossing at 353.
It is better than District X at 361.
Yeah, okay. I think it's better than Generation Hope at 358.
Oh, that's the one where they do an Akira?
Yeah, I think this is probably a better opening arc than that.
I don't think this is better than Girls' School from Heck, a story that I notoriously don't have strong good feelings for.
No, but I think
Girl School from Heck is better.
Girl School from Heck is probably saying more. So I
Yeah.
would give it the edge, and that would make this our new 358 Mutant X.
It would be our new 358. Honestly, a better showing for Howard Mackey than I expected. Howard Mackey, a writer that was doing X-Men stuff for so long that by his last X-Men book, they thought it would actually sell better if they didn't say it was by Howard Mackey.
That's insane. All right.
We'll talk about the Brotherhood at a certain point. A book that was canceled because of 9/11. Also, they were like, maybe we shouldn't do a book about terrorists.
Yeah,
right now, right?
Not great.
We shouldn't do a domestic terrorist book where they're the protagonists. Okay. Who can kill? Oh, X-Statics. Let X-Statics just murder these guys real good. That'll actually tie it up nicely.
We'll take this opportunity.
I wonder if the Brotherhood are going to show up on Krakoa, and then Magneto's going to be like, "Why did you use my name? That was my name.
No.
You guys are some 2-bit terrorists.
There's no way
I at
that's
least had
showing
nukes."
Not happening.
Oh, man. But if they ever gave me control of the X-Men, I would plummet sales, but I would make the dumbest stuff come back. The XUE would be back in the first 3 issues.
I think people would like that.
Promise you.
People would be into that.
I think people would think any idea I have, which I don't want to write comics. I know there's a lot of people who like, I could write comics. No, I have no desire to do that. I would throw the wildest stuff at the walls just to see what I could get away with.
Well, I guess it depends on what editorial lets you get away with, right?
Exactly. But speaking of wild and speaking of things that people tried to get away with, we have one more comic here.
Man, we are going to need to do some explaining here because we did say the theme of this episode was Mutant X. So Zach and I decided to read the issue of Marvel Comics entitled Mutant X Origin. Now, this Mutant X doesn't have anything to do with anything that we were just talking about, does it, Zach?
I cannot emphasize enough that there are actual U.S. Circuit Court cases about if this comic is legally distinct from the X-Men franchise. And the answer is that it was kind of up in the air and they settled out of court eventually. But what had happened, so this comes out in 2002. 20th Century Fox had owned the film and TV rights to X-Men for some time at this point.
That is correct.
Like that was not a new phenomenon. But Marvel Comics did want to try and produce a TV series for some unknown reason.
Yeah.
They produced a syndicated TV series. Now, Adam, for our younger listeners, can you explain what syndicated TV shows were?
Syndication just means that you have enough episodes that a show can go into reruns.
Sure, but with Mutant X and some of its brethren, like Xena Princess Warrior or Star Trek The Next Generation,
it's much more episodic, right? So it's not like your prestige television shows where, everything leads into everything and it's all one cohesive story. It's here's an adventure a week.
And these were specifically, like, these were not produced by a network.
No.
Like a lot of shows are.
No.
Or a production house that would own it. These were, hey, here's a show we made. Anyone can buy it. We're going to keep putting out episodes. And that's what they did. That's what the Star Trek model was. Like, those didn't run on CBS. Those ran on whatever your local affiliate that wanted to buy the rights to syndicate it.
Yeah. And that still happens today. If you watch to the end of a game show, see what production house made it, because it may not line up with the network that's airing it.
Right.
So I believe the show was created by Avi Arad. This actually happened almost in conjunction. When did the first X-Men movie come out? 2000?
2000.
Right. And the
show came out in 2001.
Right. So Fox is looking at this and going, what are you doing? We just put out this extremely successful superhero movie and you're trying to move into this space with Marvel Entertainment. And lawsuits ensued, man. Like, this turned into a legal battle.
Here's the thing. Fox was 100% right, because Marvel had just recently put out X-Men comics called Mutant X, and also the words mutant and the letter X, and from Marvel Comics, all indicate that this is based on Marvel Comics X-Men franchise, which Fox had the exclusive rights to in an agreement that everyone was happy with. So, we have Mutant X, which is not about Charles Xavier.
No.
Or Magneto, or any of our friends.
No. It is
It's about Adam Kane and Paul Breedlove.
who are DNA researchers of the mustard plant.
Listen, let's be very honest here. Adam, did you ever watch the TV series Mutant X?
No, I did not watch any of the 66 episodes of Mutant X. So even the photo cover of this issue that features two actors from the show, I don't know who these people are.
Yeah, no, I do not either. But Mutant X was a show about people with special DNA. They were experimented, and there were different kinds of mutants. There was molecular mutants who could mess with molecules and stuff. There were like feral mutants that could turn into cats or whatever. There were telepathic mutants, elemental mutants. Like, it was a whole thing, and they would go around trying to help out other mutants like they were the A-Team, but for mutants, and trying to stop a bad guy, Madison Eckhart, from, doing bad things.
It's when I say this is a almost incomprehensible comic book, regardless of how much you might know about the show, I think that between the artwork and the writing and the coloring of characters that makes it very unclear of which character is which. This is not like a superhero comic where everybody has a recognizable silhouette or a recognizable costume or, color scheme or something. These are just people. And the artwork here, which is by
Lee Ferguson.
Thank you. Is very bad. It's someone who looks like they spent a lot of time staring at Joe Quesada art without actually having any of the talent of Joe Quesada. And it's bad. I have no idea from page to page who some of these characters are, why things are happening. It's quite poor.
Yeah, it's David Tishman co-writes this with Howard Chaykin, and there's a lot of things you can and should say about Howard Chaykin. Howard Chaykin in the year 2002 did know how to make comic books that people enjoyed.
Sure.
Everything else aside, Chaykin had done a lot of comics.
Yeah.
It's wild that he's on this and it is so poor.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if he just came in to do a touch up on the scripts or whatever. Yeah. And for those people who don't know, Chaykin has done some pretty abominable things in his writing and projects that he's worked on. So, his more recent work may be a complete turnoff to most of
I'm not, this is I hadn't read Howard Chaykin stuff from the past when he was the guy that people loved. But then Howard Chaykin, was the Howard Chaykin. Oh, here's why. Because Howard Chaykin wrote the first episode of Mutant X.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
That's news to me.
Huh.
That's something I didn't know.
No, I didn't know that either. All right. But I'm assuming you had the same issue with the crafting of this tie-in comic.
Oh, it's a poorly made comic.
Yeah.
It's incomprehensible. I even putting aside, if I'm putting on I'm a new reader, this is a comic that has nothing to do with the X-Men, I don't understand what they're doing. It's a weird story about a genetic experiment gone kind of wrong, but doesn't seem like it went that wrong. And now there's friends who are on the other side of each other, and it's bad. This is bad. I just realized that the sequel comic to this, Mutant X Dangerous Decisions, while it may not be better, it does have Stuart Immonen art.
Yes.
And we should have read that one. I didn't realize it. That's a Stuart Immonen, Catherine Immonen art.
Yep.
Joint.
Yeah.
That's before they were married, though. So it was under her maiden.
I saw it in the letters page of the comic, and I was like, "Oh no, we totally chose wrong." And
we could have done something by creators we both like.
So if we're being a little light on the plot here, it doesn't make a lot of sense. We have characters who go from mapping the genome of a mustard plant to, I guess cracking the human genome, to experimenting on people, and at some point, I guess a guy named Trent breaks somebody's back, and I guess all this leads into the first episode of the show. So
I guess
doesn't seem compelling in any way.
The thing with this podcast is sometimes me and Adam come up with bits, and we think they're going to be funny for us to do. And then it's a joke on us. We played a prank on ourselves, and we now have to be the ones to receive punishment because we had to read this bad comic and then try and explain it, but there's no good way. It's not just like a weird media tie-in. It's just like a really poorly crafted comic, but not in a fun, entertaining way, like Wolverine's trying to sell you trading cards.
Right. This is not the
and that's where
this
I'm
is
at
not the
with
Charleston Chew tie-in issue of Marvel Comics Presents.
Just don't try and find these. Like, there's a lot of this weird stuff that I encourage people to seek out because it's buck wild. This isn't worth it. Like, here's where I'm at, Adam. Number 500, Wolverine 98 to 100, Furnace of His Mind, Anvil of His Heart. Like, I'm reading that Larry Hama comic 100 times before I pick this one up again.
Oh yeah, no, this is terrible. I struggle putting it like at the absolute depths of the bottom here, if only because it's not. There are a couple of like little offensive things in this book that are also kind of terrible.
Yeah, but they're this was a comic that was made in 2002 level of
exactly, and because the story is just like gobbledygook, it's very, very difficult to say it's worse than something that's like straight up offensive.
How do you feel about this compared to another tie-in comic, X-Men Prelude to Perdition #1, which was that Capcom tie-in comic for a video game? That's at 526.
Zach,
and I believe that is our lowest. No, X-Men the Animation Special is lower than this, and this is actually better than X-Men the Animation Special, I think.
Okay. Yeah. Wow.
This is at least someone drew a comic.
Yeah. Yeah, and everything below that starts to get into like the offensive. So I don't think this is as good as what's right above that, which is Wolverine and the X-Men Volume 2, 1-6.
Okay, perfect.
Which is also...
This is 538.
Yeah, which is also a narrative mess, but, has some...
It's got that Mahmoud Asar art.
I was going to say, it's got some
That one's got the good art.
Oh, man.
So this is our new number 538.
Avoid that one, folks.
Why do we do this to ourselves?
Because we thought we were being funny. We were like, oh, we'll do this. This will be fun. And...
It'll be a good prank we played on us.
Whoops.
Idiots.
Whoops.
Do you know who's not an idiot, though?
The generous benefactor of this episode.
Yeah, Marcelo Biot. Not an idiot. Great dude. Once gave me custom art of this podcast. When I met him at a convention. It was fantastic. It is, you can't see it because this is an audio medium, but I'm pointing to it. It's over there. Adam also can't see it because I'm not moving my camera.
Yes.
He's seen it before.
And I am going to share a little secret about Marcelo and myself, and that is that we are actually working on a comic book together. So in a little bit different, I'm actually writing this one shot, and Marcelo is drawing it. So whenever that is ready, we will share the world. But if you would like to get just a little sneak peek at that, you can follow him on Twitter at MarceloBot. So that I'm hoping will be in hands sometime next year.
Exciting.
Woo.
Beyond that, what else do you got going on, Adam?
Folks, you can always follow me on Twitter at Arthur Stacy. Just got back from New York Comic Con, and that was interesting. But you can kind of see what happened there.
And if you want to read about what happened there, you can go to the Comics XF newsletter.
Yes,
and sign up. Adam spoke about his experience as a con goer, and we actually had some of our exhibitors and Artist Alley folk talk about their experience with New York Comic Con. Friend of the show and editor Dan Grote compiled that and put all that together. Dan's great. He manages the newsletter. Go check that out. There's a lot of fun stuff there.
it's very cool.
And then go check out everything else we're doing on comicsxf.com and on Twitter at comicsxf. I think by the time this goes up, we had a really cool Al Ewing interview that will be up by that point. And that's dope. Here's the thing. We've been killing it with interviews recently.
Yes.
There's been a lot of really good interviews that some of y'all ain't paying enough attention to.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen the upcoming slate. It's so wild how many people we can get to say yes to us. It's not even hard anymore. We're just like, hey, we're a real website. Cool, whatever, fine.
We're a real website. It's true. It's true. We get the hits.
Sometimes all you have to do is pay for a URL. Mm-hmm. And they're like, okay, well, this email address is coming from a website. They had to pay for this email, so they're taking this like 10% seriously. We're taking it like 5.
Yeah. Yep.
But we've got that going on in next week. Like I spoiled at the beginning of the episode, it's going to be a spooky time. Ooh. So we're going to talk about some Halloween stories. But until then, this has been Bally Adam. We hope you survived the experience.
Get it!